today's session, All Things Connected Virtual Thought Leadership Series, which is Reflect, Recalibrate, Rebound, very apt series which we are running because given the current situation we have, everybody has been affected. But how do we reflect back our strategy? How do we recalibrate going forward? And how do we rebound as quickly as possible? So that's the whole idea of those virtual series which we have been running and going forward as well. So today's session is primarily focusing on how do we safe and secure buildings and facilities going forward, and what are the applications and use case in IoT, AI, and other emerging technologies to make sure that when we go back to our offices or to the buildings or the shopping malls or cinema houses, they are pretty safe and secure, right? And many of these building and facility owners I have been speaking to are also driving a lot of innovation in this approach. So Michael is going to share some of the interesting work which SCashTec is doing with support of Alibaba. So they are also Alibaba's partner. Interesting use cases. I won't be surprised if we have already seen some of the solutions in action. And followed by Michael for 20 minutes. Then we'll have Bala, who will speak about the business side of the solutions, right? Because we can talk about all this emerging tech, AI, blockchain, all those technologies, but how do we need to think of those solutions from business point of view, from ROI point of view? Because there are multiple stakeholders are involved when we talk about buildings and facilities. It's not just about retailers, it's not just about solution providers, it's not just about buildings owners, FM owners. There are a lot of players who need to come together to really make the buildings and facilities safe and secure.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. First of all, I would thank All Things Connect for inviting us, and also Alibaba Cloud for recommending SCASH. So before I begin, let's sit back and relax. We'll play a short video for you. Okay, welcome back. I'll share my screen now.
Yep, we can see your screen, Michael.
Okay, allow me to briefly introduce SCASH. SCASH is a Singapore company. So we are a tech-driven company. So in Asia now, we are serving more than 400,000 merchants. We have a strategic partnership in Asia with Alipay, Alibaba Cloud, Taobao, Frigi. In Singapore, we have a strong relationship with our Nets, our biggest wallet in Singapore, and also the Singapore Institute of Retail Study. And then our biggest partner in Indonesia is BCA. This is a brief intro about SCASH. Okay, let's talk about today's topic. Before I start, maybe I just qualify ourselves. So what I'm going to share later will be more specific to Singapore environment, but we can cater to your part of the world if needed. Okay, so what I'm sharing here is only restricted to Singapore. So with COVID, there's a big buzzword now. The word is called be safe. So what are the challenges now? In Singapore, what happened here is that all the malls, we have our people standing at the entrance taking temperature before you can enter any buildings. So the challenges here is that our security workers are at risk because they come contact with people and there are high chance of getting infected, you see. So there's another thing that happens that because of this new COVID, mall owner or buildings owner need to employ more people to facilitate this temperature gathering. We met up with I just want to share, we met up with one of the biggest expo company in Singapore called Singapore Expo. When we share with them our technologies and solution, they think is it's a perfect solution for them because manpower cost is the biggest headache for them right now because they need to deploy a lot of people. And in Singapore, manpower cost is very high. For example, you need to employ a person, it set you back about $2,000 per month, and then have numerous entrants, probably you and shift. So this owner need to incur up to maybe $20,000 per month on just manpower cost. And let's say you convert to a year, it can exceed $250,000 just on manpower alone. But working with us, this solution is totally reduce the cost of manpower cost. And then it's because of the temperature monitoring, there's time consuming in terms of long queues. So we have an incident where someone went to the mall to pick up a medicine for his mother. The journey to the mall and back after buying takes them back about 4 hours in today's after COVID, you see, during COVID season. So our technology can help to reduce timing. Yeah. In Singapore also, there is a restriction on number of head counts in a mall or building. They restrict the number of visitors count. So now they're using a clicker to count, which is inaccurate. With our system, we can easily check in and check out a person so that we can provide a safe distance for our visitors. Yeah. And of course, we have a double encryption on our data under Alibaba Cloud, which I will share later. Okay, so the solution now we're introducing now is called a next gen ID, next generation ID. So we are not just a temperature taking machine. Okay, so the next word I want to introduce is called data driven. Okay, so at the end of the day, this particular solution not only useful in COVID time, but also beyond COVID. Okay, we want to demonstrate that our solution not only stays at today, but also beyond COVID. So what does it do? It has intelligent detection on the temperature. So it has a warning upon, as you can see from the video, if there's an abnormal temperature, the alarms will ring out. Whether you doesn't wear a mask, you also sound an alarm. So it can capture your facial when you are wearing a mask. Okay, so and then all the mall owner will have a real-time temperature display and broadcast. That means we have a software and an app given to the security or the mall owner. At any point of time, they can access to people visiting their malls. We have real-time inquiry of visitor management. Yeah, we can do attendance, we can do law inquiry, and all this data, as I mentioned, is stored with the encrypted security on the cloud. So these are some of the security certificate that we have qualifying for Singapore, the MTCS cert, and then the PCI cert. Okay, so that's how we have world-class encryption. So the machine does not store the data. All the data is stored in the cloud. Yeah. So if somebody were to take away the machine, he does not have the data. Okay. We also have PDPA imputed in the system. So what I'm going to share now is some of the application that we have implemented. Some application that we can implement. The first one, of course, is to buildings, malls, and residential. So this machine, besides taking temperature, we can even connect to the existing visitor management system. Means that you can impute the facial of a visitor prior to their arrival. So you see, in the normal circumstances where you can see long queue at the lobby, logging in the visitors, all these queue will disappear because if this system is in place, we literally remove the queue because now we have a longer queue because everybody got to stand 1 meter or 2 meter apart. So it looks very disruptive in the hall. So with this system, before we visit the building, your photo, you can send a photo down, then we can take down the photo in the system, and when you walk through, the gantry will allow you to enter. Okay, in Singapore, we have already implemented in some of the big hotels, even our Singapore pools. Singapore Pool is the biggest lottery center in Singapore. So we are doing our POC in this building where they implement this. Yeah, so we can track visitor count and duration, and all this data can be used as data mining to understand your demographics of your visitors and those that's patronizing your mall. Okay, by having this data capture, you also improve building security. Yeah, and then it supports safe entry integration. Safe entry integration, in case you doesn't know, is a Singapore thing. Okay, so that they understand where you travel, and in case of any outbreak, they can identify the cluster. Now, I want to add on something to this building, malls, and residential. Okay, if you are a bit, if you are bold enough, then we have introduced for some of the buildings or hotels, a scan to order. You see, it might be currently a temperature measuring tool and also a visiting management system. But however, we can convert a building or a mall into a lifestyle. How do we do that? That means that we integrate a couple of solutions into the building. As such, you can, from scanning the QR, because there's a QR on the machine, by scanning the QR, you can access to maybe all the restaurant 300 meters radius from your building. Okay, what we can do is that people do not have to travel anymore to buy their lunch. They need to scan the QR immediately. All the stores around there appears in their handphone through a web app, and then we can make a selection what they want to buy, and then they can do delivery. As such, the mall no longer a place for working, but also a place of dining. Building can adopt this technology, and then they can create a new revenue for themselves by working together with all the merchants and restaurants around them, you see. So any sales was done, it becomes a revenue for the buildings or malls. So it's a whole new experience. So besides building, we have also linked up with hospitals and clinics in Singapore. So that the same system, besides taking temperature, we can even link with the queue management system. So instead of a big group of people hovering at the hospital lobby waiting for their turns, once we scan his identity, a queue number is designated. So the visitors can come back at a later time when his queue is up, instead of loitering in the hospital and getting higher chance to be infected by diseases. And then within the system, we also can integrate the patient's record and assign doctors. That will improve security, and at the same time, you also can create data for the hospital. So there's another application here where we use for retail store. In Singapore, we are implementing this in one of the biggest retail chain. So besides temperature, again, to make sure that people walking through your doors are healthy, we have integrated with a loyalty program. That means with facial recognition, that means if I were to walk into your store and I'm your VIP member, immediately your notification is sent to the manager of the store, and the store manager knows that a VIP just walked through the door, and he can give a special attention to this person. You see, so upon checkout, instead of asking the person whether did he bring his membership card, just the scan of his facial, immediately we can initiate the discount. Okay, and then all these things will be linked up behind the scene with the purchases that he buy, and that will build the library for big data and AI analytics report, so that we know that exactly the members' preference and what he used to buy. and with that, the store can send special promotion and even vouchers on certain products that the member is keen to embark on. Okay, so that's for the retail store. We also can use it for education for schools. So the facial recognition can without temperature, you can use for attendance record. Okay, so if the student supposed to turn up and it doesn't, so a notification can send to the parent to tell them that your child is not in school. Okay, so that's one. It also can improve the school security. So people that are not in the school will be highlighted, and they need to and the security can come over and maybe enroll them before they can enter the school. Also can manage staff as well in terms of attendance and timing. And next application is the hotels. Yeah. Besides temperature taking and facial, we can also do a smart check-in by facial. Yeah, do a smart check-in by facial, so that when his screen is faced, immediately a room is assigned. So it saves time. We also can have a loyalty program. Can clock points. Can even have a discount when he check in because he's a regular to the hotel. Okay, that will increase customer service and seamless flow. Okay, so in Singapore, I think in most of the places where when you check in a hotel, they need to do authentication and need to clear with the ICA, the Immigration Custom Authority. So we can integrate this system to the ICA, okay, so that they can do their authentication that this is a real customer. Okay, that so that in turn increase the hotel security. We have introduced this to two big hotel groups in Singapore, the Pan Pacific Group and also the Millennium Hotel Group, which they will deploy throughout the hotels in this region. Yeah, so it create a lot of data and also a loyalty program to encourage the regulars customer to come back to the same hotel group again. Yeah, so the big data and the AI analytics report plays a strong part in this. So these are some of the back end we have. So we are not just selling a hardware. So this our solution comes with a software and also a data involved. So we can remote configure all devices on admin panel. Like our Singapore pools, we have 100 branches throughout the country. So our admin panel able to control every single machine out there. So we don't need to have people going down to manage every machine. Okay, so we have a detailed dashboard and also a mobile app. The mobile app is for the security team or the owner of the mall to have a direct visual of the visitors they have at the premises. Okay, we can configure staff, okay, visitors, and for some places we can even blacklist the individual for entering your premise. Okay, all the report can be exported in case there is an investigation. You can export it to certain authorities for check. Okay, this is our safe entry in Singapore. I'm not sure whether you guys in different parts of the world are using a safe entry. The safe entry is to when you go to certain places, you need to scan the QR and then you key in your particulars to initiate an entry, and you leave. When you leave, you also need to do the same thing. So what SCASH has done differently is that because every place you need to do this exercise, which is very straining, okay, for the customer. So what we have done is that we have made it a dynamic QR. As such, he only need to scan once and key in particulars. The next time when he comes in as a visitor. The first time he comes in as a stranger. the next time when he comes in like as if he's a visitor. He don't need to key in his particulars anymore, because the facial recognition will trigger off the profile and send over to the government as a compliant measures. We also have employee entry, so we can put into the gantry or door, okay. So it's so once he scans that you are employee, the gantry will open, okay. And then we not only can do facial, we also can do NFC. So if you ever have a staff pass, we can tap on the machine. It also can initiate the opening of the door. Oops, sorry. Wait a minute, Okay, I want to talk about this because this is our unique proposition. So like I said earlier, it's all data driven. Okay, so data, it means power. It means as long as you know the audience coming to your places, you will know how to monetize it. Okay, so using our system is not only for temperature, all the data that you can gather in terms of gender, timing, so that you know when is the when is the most crowded time in the mall. All these numbers can be given at certain time of the day. What's the number of people in your building? All these you have a real time 3D presentation, okay, that you can see at any point of time. Yeah. To have this, to develop this on your own, I think probably you will set a company back about 700,000 Sing dollars a year. Okay, but with SCASH, it's already bundled in the whole solution. Okay, so it's a shared resource. So we bundle in a solution so that all the mall owner or building owners, they can have a true reflection in terms of numbers, what they have in the building. So in summary, we able to minimize frontline workers' risk. Yeah. Okay, because there's lesser human contact. We save costs in terms of manpower. We have a double data encryption. Okay, and because we're using a machine, we can run 24/7. Yeah, with all the data-driven technologies and usage, this machine is not just a COVID thing. We can continue to use after COVID. Yeah, we use dynamic QR for safe entry for Singapore. Automation in submitting, that one is also a Singapore thing. Okay, so we can integrate into the existing HR system, integrate the existing CRM. We have data analysis, and then we can beautifully present it with our data V. So this is the specs of our product now, hardware. Okay, the temperature accuracy is about 0.2 okay, difference with 50 centimeters, 0.5 with 1 meter. All our machines are all CE approved. Yeah, so it has qualified all the tests. In Singapore, we handle all the project management. Okay, delivery service will be handled. We conduct training for our merchants, and we do a technical support 8 to 5. If you'd like to know more, you can scan the QR in front of you.
Interesting.
I was told by
face recognition also. I was wondering that we have some face recognition for them to register automatically.
Well, once you scan it, you let us know. We also will talk about commission. But if we have more time, CK, do we have more time?
Yes, we can spend a couple of minutes. No worries.
Yeah, I'd like to show you our back end. Okay, I want to show you our back end. So we're just not a hardware alone. the value of our proposition is in our back end. Okay, maybe I invite another voice. Okay, maybe you see my voice after so long. So maybe I invite another voice. One of my team member, his name is called Edric. Yeah, he's my tech director. He will run you through the back end.
Hi everyone. Thanks for inviting me for presenting for the backend explanations. So what you're seeing right now here, my name is Edric. I'm the technical director of SCASH. What you're seeing here is actually the cloud connectivity that connecting to the next-gen ID. So it's live right now with the some of the data, the real-time data. So whatever you see is actually all the personal that pass through our next-gen ID. So all you have to do is just click on the export button here. You can immediately export out yesterday's report. So once you downloaded yesterday's report, you'll be able to just using a normal Excel spreadsheet to open it up. So inside the Excel spreadsheet, you will be able to see all the faces that scan through the machine, the temperature, the name of the employee, as well as if you key in their NRC or mobile phone, it will be showing over here as well, and the timestamp. So like for example, MOM actually require 2 timestamps of temperature taking right now for all the employees go back to work. So in here, you easily manage it for the HR systems. On other ways, you can click on the management itself. You can add on the staff list over here by adding it one by one, or in the other side is to add in the bulk. That means you can have a bulk upload if you have more than more than 10 employee. That would simplify the job. Or sometimes you have visitors coming into your building. You can preload their data into this so-called our cloud systems. So they were registered as a visitors beforehand. Lastly, you can actually do a blacklist, which is not allowing somebody to come into a premise. That can be done as well. So one thing I like to show with everyone is the remote control management. So when the device has been deployed into the location, you can see whether it's online or offline. All right, and if it's online, you can just click on the configuration. Then we'll give you the so-called the device name, as well as if you add in the device address, it can be done. Or you want to set up the company name, or the one of the key features here is actually our scanning. The face scanning cannot be done by paper photos or even electronics, mobile phone photos. So it will block all this. It won't open up the green light for you to pass through. And our SAFEENTRY logo is uploaded over here. And eventually we have the SAFEENTRY auto submission, on that. And you can remote control with the volume, right, on while sitting in the office. And at the same time, you can actually set the temperature threshold. Yeah, and these are the so-called, you can set like you're actually having it outdoor or indoor, and you want the mask to be detected, not to be detected, or stranger mode as well. All this can remote control through the so-called the remote assessment, remote access management. And lastly, one thing I would like to show you guys is actually the log files. So just now we mentioned about the SAFEENTRY will be auto uploaded, and all this log file will be keep track on the SAFEENTRY uploads. If it's successful, we'll just say that who the person's name, or the SAFEENTRY will be successful upload in the log file. Whenever there's an audit come over, you can actually just filter the file and export it out. And that is actually the backend system that we have. Yep.
Okay, that's all we have for this afternoon. Okay. Yeah.
So let me talk to you more about what is enterprise risk management and the changing landscape of risk right now. Okay. Especially on the back of COVID, I think two things are happening. Risk is at the forefront of every single business manager, and the way they have been thinking and perceiving about risk has actually changed. So let me articulate a little more about how this is changing and what is the current thought process. To start off, right, I actually work for Marsh. Marsh is one of the world's leading or the largest insurance broking and risk consultant. Okay, so what we do is, right, let's start looking at what do we do with risk. Okay, when you look at risk, there are four things you do with risk. You first either tolerate it, or you treat it, or you terminate it, or you transfer it. Okay, so these are the four things you typically do with risk. Okay. Now, if you look at the ecosystem, right, there's always a buyer of risk transfer solution, which is typically corporates like you. It could be a building, it could be a facilities manager. So you have an infrastructure, you have an asset in terms of property, you've got people coming in, you've got vendors giving you stuff, you're manufacturing something at your location, you're doing so many things, a lot of business activities. Okay, so in each of these activities, there's an inherent risk in it. And what you try and do is basically optimize that risk in trying to manage it by way of risk management solutions. Okay, and insurance is one provision where you actually transfer that risk out. So what we do at Marsh is we act as an intermediary. We are the broker between you and the insurance market, which actually provides you with an insurance solution which helps you mitigate this. So in some sense, right, insurance is like the thing which you don't like typically. The last thing you ever want to meet is an insurance agent or a broker. But insurance is actually something which is like the lubricant. Without that, no business actually, or the entire supply chain does not work. So what we are seeing right now on the back of COVID and also the relatively volatile kind of world we are having is that the whole demand side of how people perceive risk is actually changing. Okay, what was not acceptable 6 months ago in terms of facial recognition, in terms of people taking your ID, is now on the back of COVID something which will be very, very acceptable as people go back into work. Now, how do you get the right balance between data privacy and how do you get the right balance between safety and security is an open topic. There's no real answer to that. But what is happening is everyone wants to understand the risk better. So questions around the solutions you put in, the questions around the data, how do you protect the data, all those things are open questions right now. So there's a whole landscape of how risk is actually perceived as shifted completely. So some of the models we have had in the past in order to understand risk is completely gone out of the window. We'll have to start looking at all these things from a very, very different lens. So typically, if you look at risk is always traditionally been understood on the back of lagging indicators. So when I say lagging indicators, these are basically data which is available to you in your ecosystem. So if you're taking life insurance, you have historical data about how long have people lived, average age of a woman or a man in a country and a geography based on the culture, when do they die? If you look at health, you get enough data about what health risks people have. These are all historical data. But on the back of what is actually happening in the world right now is what you need to do in order to measure risk is you need leading indicators. You need data which is actually coming at real time. You need to understand data which is not available to you by way of predicting based on historical as well as current data. So the whole data of the landscape of how you manage and perceive risk is completely changed. Okay, so that's what at Marsh we try to do. What we're trying to do is actually try to understand what are these emerging risks. And there's no other way than actually working with organizations to actually understand the risk. So if I'm actually wanting to provide you with a solution, say for cyber risk, or I want to provide you with a risk management or an insurance solution for your facilities, there's no better way other than me partnering and working with you to understand the risk landscape. So data becomes very, very important. And that's where the IoT angle comes in for us, where we really want to understand how IoT fits in, how do we actually work with data, what does this data mean to us, and on the back of this data, how can I provide you with some risk management solutions. So I think few areas where we are actually working extensively are in real-time risk management. We are also looking at and spend a lot of time working with the sharing economy. When I say sharing economy, it's all people where, you know, they're not full-time employees, they're gig workers. You know, you have firms like Deliveroo, you've got ride companies like Grab. All of them are actually changing the face of how actually business is done. So the pricing of the insurance or the pricing of the risk also has to become dynamic. Okay, but unfortunately, right, the entire industry of the insurance industry is still based on traditional underwriting. You know, we don't understand risks that well. We are not able to quantify those risks. And as long as we cannot quantify the risks, you know, we will not be able to put a proper price on it. Okay, and that's what we try to understand. We are working with multiple partners to see how we could actually do this. Okay. So if you look at the new risk paradigm, right, everything which actually the former presenter actually demonstrated is all now it's there right now. Okay, everything is based on IoT. It's based on sensors. It's based on wearables. You're going to have some GPS trackers which are perhaps going to be built on to your into your clothes in the future. It's already available to you in some form on the back of a phone. As long as you share the phone, people can track you as to where you're going. And what is also going to happen is that, you know, a lot of AI solutions are going to be rolled out. The problem with the AI solutions is you don't know what algorithms are there in the box. Okay, the question is there an anti-selection there? How well do you understand the box? You know, is the algorithm biased? Is it going to work against you? All these questions are open-ended. We just don't understand. At the same time, a lot of blockchain solutions are coming, which basically, you know, suggests that we could actually protect your data much better. There's a lot of democratization of data, and you will perhaps end up owning the data, so that you could actually share this data with the ecosystem only based on your consent. But again, you know, the technology is maybe 2 years from real maturity, so we don't understand all these things. So all these things are evolving. So what needs to happen is the underlying process around how you actually collect data, how you manage data, and what you do with that data is actually a risk management problem which we are trying to solve. Okay, so when you actually put out any solution or when you evaluate a solution, I think you should probably put down a lens of a risk manager to look at the entire spectrum of the risks you're actually managing. It's just not the technology risk. It's a people risk. It's a process risk. It's the risk around you know, how you manage the entire risk process with the government. You know, what are all the regulatory hurdles which you have to manage? You need to think through this entire spectrum of risk. Okay, so these are some of the emerging themes. You know, if you look at even facilities management or building management or whatever it is, these are the predominant emerging themes. But the one important thing which is emerging from all these things on which we have to pay a lot of attention is that the customer is by default changed. You know, the customer is no longer happy with, you know, you giving minimum information. The customer wants to be in full control of his entire experience. So if I really want to walk into a building right now, okay, and I go through 3 levels of scanners, okay, I really go through you know, a facial recognition scanner, I really go through a temperature scanner. At the end of the day, I really want to have control over the data. I want to know how much you know about me, and I want to be in a position to actually say, you know, what data do you have me, and I also suggest to you that, you know, some of this data I don't want you to hold. I want you to scrub it forever. Okay, so end of the day, it's all about trying to empower the customer and providing the customer experience. So I think that's where risk management is actually going. So I think CK wanted to talk to me about putting a highlight on what risk management is, and also a little bit about what innovation means to us and what are we doing in that space. So what I'll do is I'll just talk to you a little bit about the innovation process we follow at Marsh, and then I'll talk to you with 1 or 2 use cases where we are actually using IoT-based solutions in order to understand risk better. So I think what we do in Marsh is we have an artificial intelligence lab. We also have a blockchain lab. We do a lot of partnership and hackathons with universities, with a lot of industry partners, and with people like you here who actually represent companies. So the whole purpose behind all this is to actually understand the entire risk management value chain and the landscape, and see how we could potentially come out with better solutions in the future. One of the things we try and do is we are actually very big on culture for that, because any transformation, say digital transformation, doesn't happen in a vacuum. It needs people. You need to work with people, and all the cultural mindsets will have to change. If you don't change, change will force you. I mean, COVID is basically going to change the way in which how we behave and how we actually interact. The concept of having smart offices, which was in vogue 6 months ago, are now under question. Do I need an office? Is the kind of questions that are being answered. So basically, it's all about people and the empathy you show to people. So a lot around culture has to be done if you have to understand risk management. So I think so we focus a lot quite around digital culture as well. So let me take 2 or 3 use cases to show how we actually work on the IoT space. So one of our leading practices is basically our construction practice, which actually manages all the construction activities and where we actually provide risk management and insurance solutions. We also work extensively with REITs. We work a lot with facility management firms in order to provide risk mitigation solutions for them. So we have significant reach and depth in terms of our clientele. Okay, we work with over 1,000 across the globe. We probably partner and work with the Fortune 100 companies globally. We work across the entire spectrum of product lines. So right from employee benefits to cyber risk, you name it, we actually work on that space. We also work on multiple client markets by industry segments. So let me take one example of what we actually work on. So one active area we actually work on is around what we call as worker injury risk management. Okay, where you have a factory setting, or you have an employee who's actually working for an airline. He's actually flying. He's had an accident. So how do you actually rehabilitate them? How do you put them back into work? And how do you actively risk manage this? Traditionally, what would have been done is, right, if there's been an accident, you just get data around what had happened as a post-event. Okay, you don't understand the risk very well. Whereas now, on the back of IoT, what we are actually trying to do is we will partner with companies like Module, which actually provides you with ability for people to sport a smart belt. You could actually work with companies like Bionic Yantra and Bainisha, who actually give you simple stickers. You could actually use stickers which are IoT devices which actually stick onto your gadget. Now these are actively providing risk information, so you could actually figure out how much is the worker bending. Is a crew on the cabin crew, is he lifting too much of a work load when he or she lifts a box and puts it on the rack on top for you? All these things can actually be measured, and so we are actually working and partnering with companies who actually do that in order to understand risk. To be honest, do we know and do we profile the risk very well? No, we really don't understand the risk landscape very well yet, because a lot of data has to be collected. It will take a lot of time. We need to partner and work with many people to understand this, and only then we can actually quantify this. One interesting use case I'm looking at right now is working with a company called Bainisha. And if you see a small picture there, they're the guys who actually help you track your arm movements when you actually bowl. When you play cricket, one of the challenges in cricket is, is a ball legal or not? If the arm twists beyond a particular angle, the ball is considered to be illegal. Now, how do you actually detect this? So some of the sensors are actually very, very simple IoT devices which are available right now. So this space is really exciting for us from a data gathering perspective. Okay, so that's one example where I can cite a use case for you. The next use case we are actually working on is with a partner called Pillar in the construction space. So what you actually do here is that you've got sensors now which you actually embed as part of your construction process. As you are actually building, you would actually see that we can now start measuring temperature, humidity, pressure, anything else for that matter. And all these things are actually feeding live into your data stream. And then now you could actually measure what is the level of risk involved in that particular construction. Okay, so that your traditional models of how you actually price risk is now changed on the back of this. So I'll leave you with some examples here. Finally, to wrap up, what is the process we actually follow for innovation? I think what we try and do here is, right, firstly acknowledge that we are dealing with some unknowns. What we start with the premise that we really don't know this risk, and the whole idea is we want to understand this risk. And two things are needed for this. I think we need to understand the data. We need to be in a position to collect data. So what we actually do is we use an MVP concept where we try and get as much of validated learning with the least possible effort. So we'll work with a couple of partners or 3 carriers, which when I say carriers, it could be insurers, and you try and get the maximum validated learning within a short period of 2-3 weeks. Okay, and the focus is always on end user. As I said earlier, right, customer centricity is the key. We are trying to solve a problem for the customer. So how am I making his experience richer? How am I actually empowering him? That's how you actually build the idea. On the back of that, you build a business case, okay, and try and you multiply the value you get out of it. To be honest, doing corporate innovation is probably very, very difficult. Consumer innovation perhaps is much better understood because it has an immediate impact because you deal directly with customers and the impact is visual. Whereas when you work with corporates, the impact is not really known. It's very hard to go to your CEO with a concrete value proposition for investment in an IoT solution when you cannot articulate what the ROI is actually going to be. So ROI is like sticking a finger in a pie. You really don't know. There are not enough data, and traditional models of how you actually do financial ROI do not apply anymore. So I think the key thing is culture here. You need to actually prepare your organization to understand that you're dealing with uncertainties right now, and the fact that there's not enough data to actually give you a foolproof ROI. But you can build some model. You start with a base model on an ROI and try and see how you could actually refine this model as you go when you get more data points. So it's basically going to be a journey. But it's a journey which all of us as organizations have to commit right now. Okay. And on the back of that, you basically build a design-centric ecosystem, where you actually try and expand the reach. And one of the key things you should always look at is value chain efficiency. Rather than focus on one aspect of what you're trying to solve, look at the end-to-end spectrum of the value chain. And in your domain, so if you're working for a facilities management company, just look at your entire value chain, and then look at the entire value chain together and not in isolation, and then try and figure out how actually any of the solutions you're plugging in is relevant for you, and how does it drive increased customer satisfaction. And then on the back of that, you actually build out your entire design-centric ecosystem. So finally, to wrap up, I think what I would suggest is there are 3 interesting books I would really like to recommend. These are my favorite books. I'll send a copy of this presentation to you. One of the books you should definitely read is what is called as Reckoning with the Risk. Okay, it's written by a psychologist. The second book is a historian writing a book on risk against the gods. If you actually go and look at that book, you would really feel that we should, historically, human beings have always been resilient, and on the back of the COVID, you could actually see that how resilient we are becoming as a society. And finally, the book by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, the book called The Black Swan. COVID could be considered a black swan event, which is perhaps a rare event for which we don't understand the model. So we don't know how the society will behave on the back of this. We don't have any idea or data on how things will happen. We are not clear on when the wave 2 of the COVID will surface. Is it going to be back? Are we going to live with this for the near future? These are all open questions which a lot of experts having a lot of ideas, but nothing in concrete. So I think these are 3 great books which you could read, which gives you a complete perspective about how risk is managed and how insurance as a solution can fit in here.
So thanks both of you one more time to share the presentation. Now we are into the panel discussion mode. Is for you, Michael, the next generation ID solution which you talked about. I think he's asking for a reference that has any major retail chain already deployed it. Any example? Maybe they're thinking to bring you to Korea.
Okay, maybe I just answered a few questions listed there. First one, of course, is any major retail chain has adopted us. There's this chain called the Club 21 in Singapore. Yeah, has been commissioned SCASH to digitize the entire flow, which include the next gen ID. Okay, it's one of the chain. Okay, we have a couple of them, but this is one of the most prominent one. There's also a question asking about whether it's HSA approved. It's not. It's only C approved. Yeah. And then there's another question asked about do we have difficulty deploying? Because now, like what Bala has clearly put it across, your identity is being exposed at any point of time. So is there a danger? So there is some difficulty at the beginning, but in this COVID situation, sometimes safety is beyond data, yeah. So you want to ensure that you will come into your place safely, and then you must, some of the premises, they have to prove to the government that they take careful measures. They have some measures being in place before they can open up the premise. So this is one of the solutions they put across to our government, and then allow their place to open up. And finally, the PDPA issues in our QR. When you scan the QR, you can tick whether you want to share information or not. So that responds to what Bala has said. The customer can say that I don't want my data to be retained, and it's possible, yeah. So his data will not be retained. At least we know that this guy walking to our door is healthy. Yeah, his temperature is below the healthy range, and then we know what time he came in. So in case of an outbreak, the authorities know how to segregate them and find out the cluster. You see, so that is what it's meant for. It's not to retain the data unless you wanted to.
Thanks for that. And if I just go back to take a approach to the risk, as you said, life and death is more risky than sharing the data. So how do you decide? Because my risk appetite versus somebody else's risk appetite could be different. So from the government point of view, how do you balance this? Any thoughts, Bala, on that? Because there are the
I think the answer depends on the society and the culture. I think it depends honestly, right? It's very difficult to answer it. Every society has to find the right balance between security and privacy. Okay, so there's no easy answer, and that's what makes risk modeling also very difficult. Because how do I put a price on any of this? Okay, how do I put a price on data theft? How do I put a price on any of these things? That's what makes this very difficult. Yeah, I think so. The answer probably will depend on some of the cultural studies which actually have happened. What's the kind of power distance in the country? Is the society hierarchical? What kind of society it is? So I think the answer will depend on that.
When any government agency going forward want to implement such solution, as you said, are there some models available where they will have to do some study of period of time and see their appetite of this kind of solution? Because the way I will apply this trace and track versus any other consumer application, maybe behavior will change, the result will change.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it again comes down to the trust and the kind of systems the government put in place. So let me not answer this in the context of security. Let me answer this in the context of AI. Okay. If you look at the AI, right, one of the things which MAS is very, very ahead of the curve when compared to other countries is they've actually published proper documentation that actually says, what are the best protocols to be put in place in order to avoid inherent bias in the AI, and how do you actually prove this? So people in Marsh, right, there's a team which actually has put out forward-thinking guidelines and paper on how you actually build intelligent AI systems. So when you have such governance practice in place, then I think the belief and the trust in that system and in the ecosystem is substantially higher. Okay, so if you look at two applications which were rolled out in the recent past, one is the Trace Together, which we have in Singapore. Okay, that is generally implicitly people trust that. Okay, although the adoption is pretty low. The adoption is probably pretty low because of the inherent nature of having to download it, install on your machine, and use it. Just compare that with an app which was rolled out in India, which scaled like anything. It was called the Arogya Setu app. Yep. Okay. Millions of people are there on it. Okay. Now, it is not 100% clear what the privacy and the data governance policy there. The statements being made out there is that, your data is it is anonymized. It's only kept for 30, 60 days. After that, it's purged. But who do you know? What is the guarantee of that? Okay, so that's what the society in India actually demands. So there will be 60% of the people who will say, yes, I will take this. The other 40 will say, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in a government institution safeguarding your privacy and data. Okay, so it's a trust there. Okay, so I think there's no easy answer to it.
If I continue the same topic to Michael now, because you are now deploying these solutions. I'm not sure whether yourself or your team members, when they're deploying the solutions on the ground, are there people hovering around asking, hey, what are you doing? How are you managing this data? And if so, how do you address those concerns in that time?
So this question is always pop up during our presentation when the when a when a company's IT team come into play, and then because the data is in the cloud, so they are asking for some security level that we have, and then and we presented the certification from Alibaba Cloud, which is firstly double encryption and all the certification that we have to ensure that data is highly encrypted and protected. And then after clearing this, then we allow to be deployed. So this question always, you're right. This question always arises for big organization at the initial stage.
I think it was a wonderful discussion, and the topic does require a lot more time to go deep dive. So I'd like to thank one more time to Michael and Bala, to you both again, and all the participants who were there with us.